Americans of Reddit, what were the biggest culture shocks you experienced when in Europe? People handle alcohol well. There are no cops. EU friend comes to America, tries to drink beer on bus. Cops get involved. Can't drink on the bus in London anymore. Difference in personal space. I went to Spain for a study abroad and the amount of physical space between me and other people made me extremely uncomfortable at first. Can feel you in my bubble. You should come to Sweden. After a while you'd be longing for someone to enter your space. Haha. I lived in Belgium for a year. The thing that most surprised me was the bureaucracy want to transfer classes in America. You log onto the school's website from your apartment, spend 5 minutes filling out an online form and you're done. In Belgium, bring 3 copies of Form A to the registrar's office. On one side of campus if your last name starts with AK, the other if it starts with KZ. And make sure you bring a passport-sized photo. They will give you 2 copies of Form B. Fill it out, bring it to the office of the department in question. 2 trips if the classes are in different departments. Then get Form C signed by both professors. Bring that back to the registrar. And compounding things, a lot of these offices are only open a few hours a day a few days of the week, and not necessarily at the same time, which makes this a multi-day process. Getting transit passes, registering a change of address, basically anything that involves any branch of the public administration was a similar pain in the ass. It's obviously an oversimplification to say America is freer than Belgium, but life over there can sometimes feel very regimented. The Fanta. I'm guessing you didn't go to Paris, then. I was surprised that French people were so freaking nice to me. I am wandering around their country without knowing a single word of French, and every time I needed help a random old French man would help me. As someone on the bus to Prague from Vienna at this moment, it's nice. Probably the time I went to an American restaurant in Germany and everyone ate their burgers with forks and knives. Haha, reminds me of the time I went to KFC in Vietnam and they were eating fried chicken with knives and forks, as though they've heard somewhere that Westerners eat with knives and forks, not dissimilar to the Asians use chopsticks mantra, and decided to just go along with it. A Greek restaurant owner literally stuck a meatball in my mouth. I tasted thumb. Really nice guy. He didn't seem to think anything of it. The meatball was really good though. Could have been the taste of his thumb, I suppose. But I ordered a few meatballs and wrote down his store's name so I could visit again if I ever return to Athens. I consider this culture shock because I have since come to assume that all Greeks are comfortable putting their thumbs in your mouth. Could have been the taste of his thumb, I suppose. Greek thumb is quite the delicacy. So much smoking. Why is it always about Americans? I'm Australian. I've traveled to Europe. Here me. I'm from South Carolina. A friend and I were having lunch in London during our trek through Europe and noticed a lot of business women with facial piercings. I'm talking full business pantsuit and lip nose rings. You just don't see that down here. Oh, and the 2 women having a meeting at the table beside us said frick about every 4th word. People not being so uptight about everything. I lived in Italy for a few years in the early 90s and also traveled to Germany a fair bit during that time, and all the various European folks, Italians and Germans, mostly, but also some Brits, Poles, etc. My family and I met were just totally free and chill about everything. Mom died, she was lovely, I'll weep, but that's life. Car got stolen, it's only a short walk to work anyway, the cops will sort it out soon enough. I was fairly young back then, but heard that kind of stuff be treated like it was the little end of the world, so I was kind of blown away by people not having a frickin' conniption 40 or 50 times a year. I don't know if it's just a heck of a coincidence or what, but I've noticed since we got back to the States in 1995 that all of my friends who either A. have spent time in Europe outside the US, in general, or B. are not from the US, in the first place are able to handle life with about a million times less stress than my friends who were born here and have never left. I will answer the other way around. I'm French. And the biggest culture shock I had when I went to the USNY and NJ was the fact that some people were terrified of strangers. We had a rental car and were trying to go to one place we couldn't find on the map. In Europe it's quite common to stop your car by the sidewalk and ask pedestrians, but in America people were freaking afraid of approaching. I was like 14, not on the driver's seat obviously, at the time, and people wouldn't come help me. I remember a woman telling me, "Sorry, I won't come near you, sweetie." Well, it was either fear or disgust of my French stench, I guess. People in Europe were better at speaking at English than I was at speaking their language. In 3 different countries, people stopped me from trying to speak their language and just spoke to me in English. Looking back, it is highly possible that my English, and not my German, actually improved when I visited Germany. It was fascinating. Restaurants are only open for lunch, then dinner, and are closed in between. In France we showed up to a restaurant at 1 PM and they said they couldn't serve us. We just bought some snacks and had a large dinner, so not a big deal. Being from the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm just used to restaurants staying open all day. The fact that people really do react negatively to you being from America. I went to Germany while Bush was president. At one of the bars a girl my age berated my friend and I about Bush for a solid 30 minutes. Despite the fact that neither my friend nor I voted for him, nor did Bush even win Minnesota's electoral vote, she couldn't get it through her head we didn't like Bush either. Germany, they leave the milk out at meals and it gets warm. Warm beer. Teenagers drink, but are mostly responsible about it. Blutwurst, sausage made of blood. It is morally offensive to pass on the right on the autobahn. Saw one car do this. You'd think he kicked a puppy. Denmark. Unhealthy fascination with fish. I asked a guy what a good Danish gift I could get my wife would be. He recommended herring. People take leaves of absence from their jobs for months at a time. They return to their old jobs like nothing happened. Scotland. I knew they were speaking English, but I couldn't understand them. Of the dozen or so countries I've been to, this is only place that happened. Europe in general. People have a disdain for Americans, except for the ones they have actually met. I had to explain more than once that movies and TV do not equal reality. Practically everybody speaks English. They are shocked when you speak their language. The Danes don't even want you to try. The shops close at 5 PM. Seriously? It is morally offensive to pass on the right on the autobahn. Saw one car do this. You'd think he kicked a puppy. It's actually illegal and against the law to pass on the right, primarily due to the missing speed limit. Warm beer. That's not a common thing here. They put mayonnaise on French fries in Holland, and in the movie theaters you can buy a glass of beer. Can I point out that we Dutch have the better version of mayonnaise, not the dribble you can get across the Atlantic Ocean. I've tried it a couple of times abroad, but it's way too sour. Our version is more sweet. The food is really good. Everywhere I went the food was great. While I was living in Spain, I frequently stopped at a truck stop on the way home from Sevilla because it was awesome. Also, people seem to have a much smaller comfort zone. When I was in Germany, I was really impressed by how bakeries seem to be ubiquitous. Not that my homeland of Canada has no bakeries, but it was nowhere near the level in Germany. The distinction was certainly a good one though. Everywhere I went, some sort of currency had to be exchanged for a trip to the restroom. Whether it was paying for the public one under the Louvre or just having to buy a drink at a cafe in order to use their toilet, I didn't dare to use the ones on the sidewalk. You can't really talk about Europe as if it was a single country. Europe is a chaos of countries, and we're all different. How nice everyone was. Paying to use a restroom and outdoor urinals. No convenience stores. Well, they were different the whole shopping experience. Everything is small. The cars are small. The roads are small. The food portions are small. Even the trees are kinda small. This is completely inverted in Munich. Even the pillows are huge. Whose head is even that big? Also, the scenery and buildings outside the window from the train seriously looked like all the classical paintings and postcards. It was really beautiful, and especially in Germany the trains were A+ amazing and everything was so clean. The hatred some people had towards me just because I'm American. That all, not all, but a lot of them spoke perfect English. Those freaking travel dictionaries were practically useless. Sorry. I'd say the beer in the hotel lobby's vending machine was my example. So chill about it. Same was at my university. Super cheap cold beer in a vending machine. I've lived in Paris and Bordeaux for a couple of years, so they refers to French, especially Parisian. Two things. 1. Hierarchy. It's everywhere, particularly among the bourgeoisie. It's in how people look at you in the metro, how people talk about others, the formality of certain greetings and meetings, the relationships between myself and my students, and how I address the director, the way immigrants are viewed, particularly those of different races, almost without exception, how many people you need to talk to get anything done, aka bureaucracy. In my friends' relationships, we have hierarchies in the US as well, but they are much less rigid and with many more exceptions. 2. Their online banking is terrible. Seriously guys. 21st century. Everyone in Paris smokes everywhere. I was still smoking then and was thrilled to be able to light up anywhere I was, including in a restaurant. Horse in the meat section at the grocery. The public transportation. Here, if you don't have a car, you're fricked. You either walk 15-30 miles or pay a friend to drive you. In the 3 weeks I spent in Europe, Paris, Versailles, Brussels, Bruges, Amsterdam, I didn't ride in a car once. The public transportation infrastructure was efficient and universally available. Plus, everything was so close together. If I didn't feel like taking the metro, I could walk. I remember, just for the fun of it, walking from Central to Leidseplein in Amsterdam, which, after looking at a map, seemed to be a good chunk of the distance across the city. The city I live near, not in, but near, takes 30 minutes to drive across on the interstate at 70 miles per hour, 112 kilometers per hour. Nothing is within walking distance. We have buses, but they're horribly inefficient and only come every 30 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the route. We have no commuter rail of any kind, no subway, no tram, nothing. The only way to get from the town I live into the city is to either drive, slip a friend with a car $10, or pay a cab $50 or so. I love the public transit. I would gladly sell my car, buy a rail pass, and take the metro every day if it was an option. I could buy a rail pass for the entire year for what I pay for my car in a month, and not have to deal with traffic. Canadian here. I think getting used to Dutch people kissing me 3 times each was a little hard at first. I'm not that close with others here, so when I visit I get bombarded with at least 5 people kissing me like crazy when I walk in the door. In some countries it's 2 times, or 4. In some countries it's only when one of the people meeting is a woman. In others it's everyone. In some countries it's only close friends. In other it's everyone. In some countries they just don't kiss one another. When people from different parts of Europe have to greet each other it's always a minfuck. I was in Northern Ireland as an exchange student in the 90s. They close everything down. Stores, restaurants, everything for bank holidays. There are tons of bank holidays, and nobody even knows what the holiday is. That people don't sit on the floors. Like right now I'm sitting on the floor with my computer on the couch. When I moved to Poland the family I was staying with looked at me like some kind of barbarian. There are a lot of fat people in the UK, not as many morbidly obese, but tons of chubbies, and no one refrigerates their drinks, soda, juice, unless necessary, which was annoying. Most of the music TV was American. Roads, parks, bike paths are 1,000 times nicer. Very few homeless people, excluding London area, and contrary to popular belief, the food is freaking amazing. No one refrigerates their drinks, soda, juice, unless necessary. In my experience, juice, yes, soda, before using if possible. A lot of us have really tiny fridges though, so that might be why it gets kept out. The lack of registers in supermarkets. I was in a fairly big supermarket in Germany once and I was surprised how there were only 5 registers at the end. It's really mind-baffling how they can get things done at all. No free refills. Fucking commies. One of the Burger Putin's Burger Kings in my town just got free refills. That actually was a huge shock. And to think you filthy capitalist fatcats Americans are so used to it. Looks like the glorious Soviet Union Russia is finally getting some freedom. paying to use a bathroom. I'm already spending money eating at your establishment. Now you want me to pay more to take a pee? My natural bodily functions should not cost money. What if someone has a disease that makes them have to go a lot? It seems unfair. I agree, but I just usually walk past the attendants. I see it as a donation rather than a proper payment. Sure, these poor people have to clean the toilets to make a living, but the restaurant should have to pay them a fair wage. That cars didn't stop for pedestrians and gypsies, especially gypsy kids. I was in Greece for 3 weeks last summer. Also, whenever a local found out I was from Canada, they would speak French. This is Kato of Power. If you subscribe, your power level will increase by 64 levels. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.